All right, now let's talk about accents. People try to do accents and very often damage their voices. And certain singers, certain composers use accents a lot, a lot. I think the first one really sort of touched on that after the bel canto era, when there was no such thing as an accent. Nobody did accents as in the really early music. Did tons and tons of coloratura and beautiful, beautiful legatos, but accenting wasn't necessary or something. But anyway, then come along, Donizetti came along, and toward the end of his career, he started using little accents and little dots and little, staccato marks and little effects on the voice. And then Verdi came along, and in early Verdi, you see him starting to use accents. About the middle period of Verdi, he was using accents a lot. They're all over the place. Now, we need to know how to do an accent. So I go, la, 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 la. In other words, what is the difference between accenting and just normal legato singing? So I'm trying to sing legato. What do I do to not hurt my voice and hit an accent? You can hear the tremendous change, the breath, the intensification, everything. So there are a couple of ways, but one of the best ways is to learn to do staccati. Breathe. Remember, the breath always goes down behind you, and preferably the belly goes in when you do that. And then you do a staccato. Now, I'm going to accent one of those staccatos as I go along. Ready? What I'm doing is hammering, and the word is martellare, and they're called martellati, hammered notes. You hammer on the staccato point on your diaphragm. When you do, the breath does not come up and hit you in the throat. The breath stays down under control. Remember, the only thing that goes through your throat, and the only thing that can hurt your throat is air, right? Food goes one way in a different throat. It goes down the esophagus. But what we're talking about is the trachea, and the trachea goes down like that, and nothing is supposed to go down through that trachea but air. It has a trap door on it called the epiglottis. It opens, and you breathe, and then it closes. When you swallow food, it closes. And then the food goes down the esophagus, which is another throat sitting over here. Man, you got two tubes, right? So what we have to learn to do is to have the esophagus open, right? And we're getting all of our breath and all of our tone has come in our body. And then the accent is made with the diaphragm. In other words, with the breath from the lower back, doing that to the diaphragm. So I'm going la 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 la. Some people use that technique as a way to sing everything they sing. No, not very legato, is it? Not very pretty. I hate to tell you who sang that way and who taught that to me was Giovanni Martinelli. And you listen to Giovanni Martinelli sometimes, you hear him going, ha, 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 se quagliario fossi. Right? Tucker would use that, Rich Tucker would use that in some of the recitatives. Most of the guys, some like U.C. Burley, could do anything. I'm talking tenors now because that's what the music that the singers that I listened to and studied with and so forth were tenors. And one soprano, one dramatic soprano, but I was friendly with everybody, picking brains all the time. I was very close to Joan Sutherland and Richard Bunning, people like that, great singers, and you ask them what they're doing and how do they sing. The whole idea, though, if you have to accent a note, you do it by pulsing the breath from the lower back against your sternum or against your diaphragm, just like you are breathing and leaning forward with the voice. I'm going, la, but never let the breath come up in the throat and hit you in the throat. One note like that can totally destroy your voice. So you got to remember, I'm going to do it. You just translate in your mind. Accent means hammering, right? And funnily enough, you're safer hammering than you are thinking about accenting, because hammering is very specific in the way the breath is used and the location where it happens. So you have a kind of control if you hammer. Ah, 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 ah. See? So if I hit, I can hit it, and I go, la, la. That's not exactly an accent, is it? That's a great big fortified note. I'm sort of loading the breath up against it down here. I'm holding that sustained L and the H to keep it there. And now what happens if I need to accent? Right? See? What I'm doing is hammering the spot right down there, going so let me use laughing to try to laugh one note. Well, it works. You can get it to work. It sounds good. And then let's say we're gonna be singing something very, very sustained in lyric, and we want to put a little accent in. Then we go. So there, what Manuel Garcia called the miniature sob. I go. That's sort of by using a falsetto attachment. Be sure that any activity that even resembles an accent is diaphragmatic and never, ever comes up and hits you in the throat. So, this is the point where I wish we were all together and you were asking me questions. Because this stuff sounds so weird. I said, what are you talking about? Well, shall I start over? Right? I take a breath behind me. My abdomen goes in, not out. If I go out, I go, and when I try to make an accent, it gets more nasal, right? So I'm going to breathe in and go, there it is. Now my breath is way in my lower back, and now I'm going to put it, let's say, on my sternum. So I can use a falsetto attachment, which in the short version becomes a sob. The slow version is La messa di voce is attaching and blending registers and going now. If I want to accent based on, let's say I'm a bel canto singer, I'm trying to sing bel canto music, and I'm using the crescendo decrescendo technique. How do I accent? How do I accent? I go. I'll really avoid violent accents because that is such a gentle touch. If I smell the flower, I go. It also about with the breath being in the back, and you're able to pop the breath up against your diaphragm or against your sternum, some location here that activates the diaphragm. And Melchior was saying here, right? And a lot of things go, and they give little accents. It's not very legato, not very lyric, right? It's basically you want to learn to get a placement and stay there. You're going to fight with a conductor sometimes because you don't want to accent. He demands accents. You know, you got the drinking song from Traviata, Libiamo, Libiamo. Well, how are you going to do that? See, you do it. See, So I can do, if I use staccato all the time and then punch the staccato and make it a hammered note, I go, it's right here. And my voice never, ever gets damaged from that. Right? Now, there are certain rules in singing the bel canto style. For instance, Caruso said, never change the shape of your mouth when you go to a high note. So I go, la, 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 la. So that almost precludes any possibility that you will accent in the ascending mode. Don't accent going up. Some people write it. Some people write it. It's funny the way Puccini and Manuel Lescaut wrote "De non cessar" on a B flat, high B flat, but it's not written as an accent. He says "con slancio," which means with enthusiasm, with sudden, explosive enthusiasm. But it's not like that. "De non cessar." That's like "De non cessar." And we don't have to get too complicated here and make these things, you know, but you've been around as long as I have, you know about 5,000 ways to do all these things one way or another. You know what it's all about really is survival. Sometimes you have to learn a lot of stuff to be able to survive and get through some of these big monster things you never should have accepted anyway in the first place, right? You know, we all want to work. We've all been working singers, and young singers very often are faced with a choice between, you know, taking a big opera they should not sing or not singing at all. See? So what do? If you sing very lyrically, you go, when do I start accenting then? Do I want to do that in the duet with Michaela in the first act? I could. See, I can disguise it by making it sound like I'm enthusiastic. If I do, what about? Well, he sounds like he's full of beans and, you know, whatever. It's, of course, it wouldn't be, probably no young duke would have ever been trained to bounce his voice like that. But anyway, the idea is to learn to use your voice to be able to do all the different things you'd like for it to do. And you're going to run into a lot of music. It gives you a lot of chances to do different things. And some of them even demand it. See? I mean, Siegfried has got hi. Now, don't want to sing like that for 5 hours tonight. See, that's the problem. A lot of these guys get in this dramatic music and they want an accent and be more dramatic, and it doesn't. It just wrecks them, right? La 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 la. Right? Well, how's that go? Is that what I want to do? Pavarotti didn't do that, and Jussi Björling didn't do that, and Franco Corelli didn't do that. Maybe I don't need to do that. Maybe I should really develop a beautiful legato on certain phrases, right? Well, anyway, I'm trying to show you how to, if you have to, you'll lose in the fight with the conductor, and you have to accent. You don't want to. The way to do it is to make all the activity occur between the lower back and the sternum. And don't let anything up here get involved. And don't let your abdomen get, if I get my abdomen involved way down low. Imagine you guys that push out of the abdomen and you push out when you breathe in. Like that. And now I'm already in this position going, That's a terrible position to be hitting your voice, for hitting your voice. Puts the breath pressure right up against there, right? It's better to breathe, pull your belly in when you breathe. And that makes your air column go like that. And guess what? My abdomen is doing nothing. It's absolutely doing my jaw's doing nothing. My throat, my tongue, the top part and the lower part are doing nothing, and everything's happening in between like this. Because I breathe here. Trepsicini said, lean the breath over like you lean a ladder against the wall. Against the sternum, she said. They're not against the throat. Or don't push like crazy. Don't put it in your abdomen and push it out like mad. Right? I mean, you have these guys, running around singing as baritones who are really big tenors. We don't do big tenors anymore. You know, I heard a guy on the videos from California. He's got a fantastic tenor voice, and he's singing as a baritone. So should I demonstrate on the video? Push the belly out and la 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 la. Well, anybody can do that. It's got a good voice. The idea is to get up and sing Otello with that voice. Anyway, that's another whole story. Breathe, breathe, breathe behind you, and watch what happens. I think you'll be surprised. Okay? Okay, bye. That was part, 3 on our encyclopedia. Bye.